If you had to describe the general look of Loomian Legacy using one word, what word would you use? Some would say good, clean, or even ugly, but if I had to answer the same question, I would say complicated. Here's why. Right off the bat, the game starts off with a few inconsistencies. The game allows the player to use their Roblox avatar, but the NPCs are all Arthro. Pair this with the fact that almost nobody uses Arthro avatars to begin with. You have kind of a weird situation where it doesn't feel like you belong. This would make sense if there was something tied into the story about the player being from the same universe as Pokemon Brick Bronze or something, but this can be proven wrong because Jake is from Brick Bronze, and he still transforms into an Arthro character. They could have made a mechanic to create a custom character but lock it to be Arthro, but there are multiple reasons why I can see why they wouldn't go with that option. Starting the game off where the player doesn't match the world without the game even acknowledging the fact whatsoever can create disorientation in the art style. Top this with the fact that almost everything has a texture except for the buildings. I don't know if they were trying to go for a more realistic or stylized art style, but since they decided to go with Arthro NPCs, I'd assume they were trying to go for a bit more realism. In my opinion, the plastic buildings do not look good compared to the other textured parts and the more realistic NPCs. Something else to bring up are the Loomians. For starters, it's pretty obvious to see when different people have worked on different Loomians because of the altering art styles. This isn't all that bad actually though, and adds more personality to the Loomians. However, Loomians get the same plastic texture treatment that the buildings do, and it makes Loomians look kinda odd when brought to places with detailed textures like Chesmatown. Speaking of which, Chesmatown breaks the pattern of using default Roblox textures and decides to use a few custom ones instead. Now this shouldn't be a problem, but yet again the plastic buildings bring this look down pretty badly. Speaking of level of detail, the poly count seems to be all over the place. Some Loomians like the Turtle redesign appear to be made in a third-party modeling software to Roblox like Blender, with lower poly counts because of the simplistic design to it. Other Loomians, however, I can't find myself saying the same thing. The starters all look outdated. I don't mean any hate to the modelers of the starters, but I feel like they could all be redesigned to look as good as possible. They are the first impression anyways. I got some of my friends to play the game for the first time, and some of them brought up how ugly some of the Loomians looked, and bashed a lot on the starters. I can sort of see why, as it kinda looks like the starters were made in Roblox 2019 itself, with the usage of parts and meshes. It makes Loomians like Mbit look kinda odd standing next to a redesigned Twiddle. As the Twiddle seems full of life and actually alive, the Mbit looks pretty lifeless inside. Back to the weird texturing found in the game, in one of the best looking towns of the game, Highwa Village, there are buildings that are textured, having wood textures to them, and then the classic buildings which remain plastic. This game is so confused on what it is that there are literally poles at the beginning of the town that keep the plastic texturing, then later down the same straightforward path, the same poles can be seen, but with multiple textures on it. This also goes with the buildings like I said earlier. I don't even have a transition for this one, but the water in this game also finds its own way to be inconsistent. In Midas Town, the water can be seen with no transparency and a light blue color, while the water in Lotus and Beach looks more detailed, has a diluted color, and is mostly transparent. To add on to that, the water in the area before Lotus and Beach is just the default Roblox ice texture, and doesn't move or isn't animated like the rest of the water in the game. This may be because of Roblox limitations, and I didn't realize it on my first playthrough, so I don't really see the water inconsistency as a big negative. Anyways, this is why I consider Loomian Legacy's art style to be complicated. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it does have a ton of inconsistencies, and I feel like it doesn't have a direct goal for an art style. When creating video games, one of the most important things to get right are the graphics, because they serve a huge role in the game, and should be presented with the mood and style of the game. Another Roblox game that I feel does this amazingly is Tales of Tenario. So far this game looks amazing, having matching avatars and NPCs, an equal and fair part-to-terrain ratio in maps, and a consistent design with the creatures. TOT looks pretty good, albeit with the advantage of coming out almost more than 3 years after Loomian Legacy. Anyways, let me know your guys' opinions in the comments, and I'll be heading out now. See ya.